Hey everyone, me again. Today I'm here to have a chat about this palette. This is the Maybelline Burgundy Bar palette. You can get this from the usual places like Boots and Superdrug. I actually got mine from beauty outlets. It was very heavily discounted, so have a look around there if there's one near you. And I thought that I'd chat about this today because the colours are very on trend for this autumn winter. There's lots of berry tones in there, there's a deep garnet red, there's some beautiful gold and bronze shimmery shades. It just all looks very autumnal and very festive, and I think a lot of people are going to be looking at this time of year. I wanted to film this as a dedicated review instead of doing the 2 looks 1 palette videos, partly because, if I'm being honest, it's just easier for me to film this way, and partly because a lot of the looks that you can create with this palette are going to look very similar. So let's talk about the price. Like I said, I got mine very heavily discounted. I think this was about £4 or so when I bought this from beauty outlet, but the RRP is actually £11.99. I'm just gonna say it, I feel like that is a little bit pricey. Even though the formula is absolutely wonderful, we'll get to that later, I do feel like drugstore products should be £10 maximum, especially seeing as it doesn't come with a mirror. The packaging is like pretty basic, to be honest. Like if you bought a palette with this packaging from a brand like Makeup Revolution, you'd probably pay about £4 for it. So £12 does feel a little bit steep, but hopefully after I finish chatting a bit about the product, you can decide for yourselves whether or not you would pay £12 for this. Packaging aside, I do really like how they've laid out the colours in this palette. I think the selection is really pretty. So it's designed so that you can use the duos next to each other, or the trios work well together just in the rows of 3, and also the quads work quite well together as well. And I do really like that. I do like that they've laid it out with beginners in mind, and there's even little pictures on the back of the packaging as well, just showing you some ideas of how you can apply the looks. However, I kind of look at this palette and I feel like it would have really benefited from a few more matte shades. So there are only 2 matte shades in the palette. It's that kind of taupey colour at the end, and then this really dark chocolate brown right here. Now these are really nice shades. I personally used this shade here for contouring and it worked really well, and I can also line my eyes with the chocolate shade as well. So I was kind of surprised that there were only 2 to choose from. And I also find that sometimes I will be reaching for other eyeshadow palettes to kind of mix with this because I feel like it's just missing a few shades. Whenever I use this on an everyday basis, I do kind of find myself reaching for this single eyeshadow from Obsession to wear with it. This is like a really light pink kind of colour, very basic, but I feel like this works really well with the Burgundy Bar, and I can't really understand why they didn't decide to put something like that in here, just because it does complement the colours so well. Or even just like a really warm orange matte shade. That would have worked absolutely beautifully in this palette. I don't think this would suit the kind of modern way of wearing eyeshadow, which you see a lot on like YouTube and Instagram. You know, where everything is very precise and very structured, and there's a cut crease and blah blah. I don't think this suits that at all. I think this is just for one wash of colour all over the lid. I think this works really well if you like to do a really soft, smoky kind of eye look. I have really been liking this because on an everyday basis I do just tend to wear one wash of colour, but today I did try to create something with a little bit more variety in there and just a bit more going on for the purpose of this tutorial. And I will admit that some people might struggle in that department because everything, once you've kind of blended it out, a lot of the colours will kind of mesh together, which I personally quite like, and I think beginners will really like that, but maybe people who are a lot better at eye makeup than me, people who like to do a lot more adventurous eyeshadow than I do, I don't think they'll like that for that particular reason. Anyway, I'll show you what I did on my eyes right now. So as always, I primed my eyes using the Maybelline Colour Tattoo in Creme de Nude, and I set everything into place with the Primark Rice Powder. I started out with the shimmery shade and I just put that on my brow bone. And then I went in with a fluffy brush and took the lightest matte taupey shade and I just put that everywhere as kind of a base colour. Then I went in with the beautiful cranberry red kind of shade and I put that on the outer corners of my eye, and then I put that up into the crease as well. And then I began to blend it in very softly, and I was really smoking everything together. I think that is the best way to create a look with this palette. After that, I took the gold shade and I just chucked that all over my lid. I was really softly blending it in with the red that was already there, but just kind of putting a lot of it in the inner corners of my eye where I didn't have as much red pigment, so it would really stand out. This gold shade, by the way, is absolutely stunning. It's really intense, it's really buttery, it's an absolute dream to apply. And I also took a little bit of the glittery light gold colour and I just put that in the middle of the lid and again focused that towards the inner corners of my eyes as well. That looked really, really nice. It definitely adds a bit of sparkle to the look. And for my inner corners, I used a peachy champagne kind of colour. Again, this is one of my favourite shades in the palette. I sometimes wear this all over my lid on a daily basis and it's so, so pretty. And then I used some Barry M eyeliner to really smoke out my lash line, and I used the AOA Fat Lash Mascara before I put on some false lashes. And that's how I got this look. It's very smoky, it's very autumn appropriate. One thing I do want to mention is that you will notice a lot of fallout. Definitely even just dipping your brush in a shade, you will just see a lot of colour kind of coming off. It is a bit messy. I also had a little bit of fallout just on my eyes. So by the time I'd finished filming that tutorial, I noticed that a bit of the eyeshadow kind of landed on my cheek and stuff, so I had to clean that up. That's not really a big issue for me, but again, just letting you know in case it's a deal breaker for you. So in conclusion, I think this palette is really, really suitable for beginners. I think that's how they've designed the palette. I think that was the audience that Maybelline had in mind when they were putting it together and designing all the shades to coordinate in a quad and duos and trios. I think that's what Maybelline had in mind with the formula as well, because soft, smoky, blown out eyeshadow is definitely a lot easier than more structured looks. I do think that the price is just a little bit high. I know that Maybelline are not the cheapest brand in the drugstore by any means, but they're not the most expensive either. And just from a consumer's perspective, I was never that interested in buying the palette when it was £12 because I knew that I could get a palette from Revolution for between £4 and about £8 or £9. The reason I bought this in the first place was because it was so discounted. So for the price that I paid for it, it is definitely worth the money. But whether it's worth the full price, I'm just going to leave that up to you and let you guys decide that for yourselves based on what I've told you, because affordability is subjective after all. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Let me know in the comments if you've got this palette or if you're thinking of picking it up, and make sure you subscribe if you're new around here for lots of videos on drugstore makeup. I upload every Wednesday at 6 PM and every Sunday at 9 AM, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye!